Hey everybody, Palumbo here, and in this video I am going to show you how to create a Notion style dashboard inside of Google Sheets. Some of the features are going to be, we have a quote generator which will give you a random quote every time you open it or when you just ask for a new quote. It has a habit tracking section, so it lets you see what percentage complete you are. It has the ability to go and create new journal entries too, so just by clicking new journal, it drops an entry into the journal section. You can then click on this link and it pulls from a template. So you have the same journal entry template for each entry. And then you also have the ability to track tasks. And this is interesting. So you can actually put the project first, the task, and then the due date, hit enter, and the app script will actually go break that apart and put the task in the right column, project in the right column, and the due date in the right column as well. So we're going to go ahead and build this out in this video. I hope you find it enjoyable. And if you do, as always, like and subscribe. So if you're a productivity junkie like me and you spend a lot of time on YouTube, also like me, you've probably seen a lot of videos on how to build Notion templates and how to use Notion to organize your life. Now, Notion, if you haven't heard, it's a very cool, very multifaceted productivity platform. It combines notes and templates with databases that can be joined and perform calculations, and it's all wrapped in Notion's own AI that can help you generate content as well as query the content you have. So I've been building templates with Notion for a couple of months now, and I plan to do some videos about the templates I've built and how I use them. But in this video, I'm going to show you how to build a Notion style life tracker dashboard inside of Google Sheets using functions built into the Sheets, Google Apps Script, of course, and Google's Query API. And when you're finished, you'll have a dashboard that will help you track habits, maintain a daily journal formatted the way you want based on a template, just like in Notion, and keep track of tasks in a very organized way. And the bonus is I'm going to show you a really cool workaround that I've been looking for a long time when it comes to how to add content to the last row of a section. So let's just go ahead and jump right in. So I have a blank Google Sheet here. I'm going to go ahead and call this one, Life OS. And I am going to also get rid of the grid lines. Now, the first thing I want to do is I want to add a custom menu to it, and I want that custom menu to populate anytime the sheet is open. So let's get rid of this function, and we're going to create an onOpen function. And in here, I'm going to say let UI equals spreadsheet get UI. And then I'm going to use that UI variable to create a menu, and that menu is going to be called Life OS. And then we want to add some items to it. So we'll do add item, we'll do new quote, and we'll connect that to a function we're going to create later called random quote. We're going to add another item called new journal entry, and we're going to connect that to daily journal. And then we're just going to add it to UI. And we're also going to call this Life OS as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and save this, and we're going to run it. Okay, and so now it's run. So if we go back and look in our spreadsheet, we have the Life OS menu, and underneath that we have new quote and new journal entry. So the first thing I want in my journal is a lot of Notion templates will pull motivational quotes and put them on your dashboard. And so I want to add that to my dashboard as well. So the first thing we need to do is go out and compile a list of quotes. And before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and call this tab dashboard, and I'm going to create a new one, and I'm going to call this one quotes. So in order to get the quotes, we are going to use Google Sheets import HTML. And of course, you can actually go and manually add the quotes if you want to. But let's go to this website here. And there are quotes listed here from Marcus Aurelius and from Seneca and from some other Stoics as well. First thing I want to do is I'm going to right click on a quote and I'm going to click on inspect because I actually want to see the HTML. The import HTML function will pull elements that are either wrapped in a list tag or a table tag. And if you notice here, that quote is wrapped in li tags. Li stands for list item. So this means that we can actually use the import HTML function to go grab that and pull it into our spreadsheet. So let's do that. I'm going to grab the URL, and right here, we'll start in column B. I'm going to go ahead and do import HTML, give it the URL. Now for query, it just needs to know whether we're pulling in data from a table or a list. In this case, it's a list. And index lets the function know, is it the first list, second list, third list? So in this case, it's the first list. So we click that, it pulls in that list of Marcus Aurelius quotes. Now I'm going to go ahead and put who the quote is attributed to. So let's put Marcus Aurelius, and we'll just double click this to drop it down. And then I'm going to go get the Seneca quotes as well, which was the next section down. So we're just going to do import HTML, same URL, pull it from a list, but this is going to be the second group. This is attributed to Seneca. And so let's drop down. All right, so now we have a list of quotes that we can pull from. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to write some app script that will allow us to put the quote, let's just say right here in cell C3. So let's go ahead, we'll get rid of this. We're going to close this on open function, and we're going to create a new function called random quote. And the first thing I'm going to do is just do a couple of spreadsheet variables. I always comment my sections, so we're going to do let ss is the get active spreadsheet, and then we're going to say let dashboard is get sheet by name, and we want it to grab the dashboard, and we're going to say let quote list equal get sheet by name quotes. Pretty sure I called it quotes, but let's double check. And yep, I called it quotes. Okay. So now we have this information. The next thing we need to do is we want to randomly pull quotes from that list. So we need to actually create a random number generator. And to help us do that, I'm also going to create one more variable, quote last row. So it'll be quote list get last row. Okay, so we'll call this random number generator. And I'm going to say let random number equal math.floor math.random, multiply that against the quote last row plus 1, and this should get us a random number. Actually, I put random, so let's fix this. Random. So I'm going to do logger.log, put my, actually let's do random number is random number, and logger.log quote last row is, this is my last row. All right, so let's go ahead, save that. Now from here, I'm going to pick my random quote function and let's run it. Okay, so what we see is random number is 16 and the last row is 42. Let's run it one more time. So random number is 2, random number 32, and random number 37. So the reason why I'm doing it like this is because that random number needs to be capped at however many rows I have. So when I wrote the function to create the random number, I used math.random multiplied by quote last row. So that ultimately is going to give me the range of essentially 1 to whatever number. When you use math.random, it's always, if you say math.random times 10, it'll give you random numbers between 1 and 9. So that's why I added that plus 1, just to ensure that that last row can be included in my random number. So now that we have the random number created, we're going to use that to go grab a quote and an author. So we're going to say let quote equal quote list get range. The row is going to be the random number. Column is going to be 2, and we're going to get the value. And we're going to do the same thing for the author. All right, so, and that is going to be in the third column. Now that we have our quote and our author, we need to go ahead and put them into the dashboard. And I think we said we're going to do it on C3. So we're going to do dashboard get range, and I'm just going to use the A1 notation of C3, set value of quote, and we'll do dashboard get range, and we're going to do C4 for this one, just directly underneath it, set value of author. All right, so let's go ahead and give this a test run. So we will run it. And here we go. We have our quote and we have who it is attributed to. I just want to do a little bit of formatting on this. So we're going to go ahead and change this to Lexend and move that to 20. The author is fine in its default font, but I am going to make one quick change to it. I actually want a hyphen in front of the author's name. So we'll just put a hyphen there and then a plus. And let's go back over here. And remember, in our custom menu, we tied new quote to the function of random quote. So I should just be able to click this and it gives me a new quote. Conceal a flaw and the world will imagine the worst, from Marcus Aurelius. Awesome. So now we have random quotes that will populate. And I also want this to happen anytime I open this, this dashboard. So what I'm going to do is in my onOpen function, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to call random quote. So basically anytime the onOpen function runs, it will pull a random quote and put it into my dashboard for me. In the next section, I want a habit tracker. So essentially there's just some things, some habits that I just want to reinforce in my life, and I want to be able to visually track them, how well I'm adhering to them. So in this part, I'm just going to put habit tracker, and we'll go out. I think this is far enough. In the background, we're going to use this dark gray. For the font, we're going to use white. And then we are going to put the days of the week starting Monday, Tuesday, and that should be enough to just drag this out. All right, so that goes out to Sunday. The habits that I want to track is I want to do cardio every day, some strength training. I want to meditate. I want to read. I want to journal, and I want to drink water. Then in here, I'm going to go ahead and put insert and checkbox, and we will pull this down here and then pull this over here. Cool. So now as I do these activities, I can just check them as I go along. As a matter of fact, I want to make sure that all of this is sort of color coordinated. So I'm going to go in here and change the background just a little bit. Now I want a visual representation, a percentage of how much I've adhered to these habits that I want to build into my life. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to do a count if for this range. And I want to count if it's true, and I want to divide that by a count A for the same range. And that will give me 83%. So we want to change this to percentage and get rid of the numbers after the decimal point. And if I click here, I get 100. So we'll drag this all the way across. And so as I go through, I can see how my percentage changes as I start clicking off these habits. Let's go ahead and just do a little bit of formatting. So we want all of these to be center. All right, so now we have our habit tracker as part of our dashboard as well. The next section I want to add is a daily journal section. I like journaling every day. And I use different templates for the different type of entries. For example, I have a daily journal entry, and then I have a completely different template that I use for, say, like my monthly OKRs or my monthly goals. So in this case, I want to create a separate section dedicated just to my journaling. So we're going to call this journal. We're going to go over 3 cells. Once again, we will put the background as the dark gray, and this is white. And then I want to sort them by month, entry, and type. So essentially, month is just going to be whatever month I created that journal entry in. Entry is going to be that day. And the title of my entry is going to be today's date. And then the type would be daily entry versus, say, monthly versus something else. So now I want to be able to go into my LifeOS menu, click on new journal entry, and have it create a new entry for me from my template. Here's how we're going to do that. So let's jump back into our app script. We'll close these, and we're going to create a new function. And this is going to be called daily journal. And so we'll do my normal spreadsheet variables, and we're going to do okay, so now I have my spreadsheet variables. I had mentioned that the title of all my journal entries is going to be the date that the entry was created. So I need to go in, create some date variables. So we'll say let today equals, and we're going to use utilities, format date, new date. And the way I want my date to be formatted is I want the 4-digit year, period, 2-digit month, period, 2-digit day. Then we are going to do another date variable. This one is going to be just for the month. And the formatting for this one is I just want the full month spelt out. So that's going to be 4 capital M's. And we can test this out real quick. Let's do logger.log today, and we'll do logger.log month. All right, so let's save this. Make sure we've got daily journal selected, and let's run this. All right, so exactly how I want it. I have my year, month, day, and then I have the full spelling of the month. Now, here's one thing that I want to do. When I add a new entry to my journal section, I want it to always append to the next available row in this 3-column section. Normally what I would do is I would just say, give me the last row of the spreadsheet. The problem though is that we're going to have a task tracker over here. And if there's data going down, say to row 34, that means if I use get last row for the sheet, even if all this is blank, it's going to append the new entry down here on this row. So I don't want that. There is a way that we can go get the last row of just that one section. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to create a new section, get last row of journal section. And what I am going to do, first of all, is I need to get the journal values. So I'm going to say journal values equals dashboard.getRange. And the way I'm gonna do this is I know that my journal section starts on C19. So I'm gonna say, give me the range of C19:C, and then get the values. You need to make sure that's plural. And what I'm doing here is I'm telling AppScript, start here, go all the way down to the very last row in column C, starting with C19, and get all the values. And so if we go into Logger, to kind of show you what this would look like, if I print out my journal values, we'll go ahead and get rid of this other statement here. So let's save this and let's click on Run. So you see I have journal and month and then a bunch of empty cells. So this is actually going to help me figure out what the last row is. But what I need to do is I'm going to need to do let journal last row equal, and I need to take that journal values and I want to filter it, just pull out the strings, essentially just pull out the values, and then I want to get the length of it. And notice, by the way, length doesn't require the open close parentheses after it. But if I do this, kind of show you what it looks like now, I can do journal last row, we'll save it, we will run it, and now we have 2. If I were to go in here and just put in some value there and we run this again, now it says 3. So this is going to allow us to get the last row just of that one section, which is really, really nice. So we will get rid of this logger.log. We don't need it anymore. There's one other thing that I want to do, which is I don't want to have duplicate journal entries. So if I create a journal entry for today, I don't want to be allowed to create another one. So what I need to do is I need to run a test inside of my journal folder where I'm going to keep all my entries to see if I want to create a journal entry for today, does that already exist? And the way that we're going to do that is, let's first of all go grab my journal folder. And if you look in my Google Drive, I have a folder called journal. This is where all my entries go. And I need to get the ID of it. So we're going to grab this random string of numbers in the URL, and that is the ID. And so we're going to do drive app get folder by ID. All right, so drop the ID in there. Then I need to get the files from it. So we're going to say let files equal journal folder get files. And then I'm going to create one more variable called check file. And I'm just going to set it to 0. And you'll see why in a second. So now what I want to do is I have grabbed the journal folder. I've gotten all the files from it. It's stored in my variable files. And I have a check file variable, which is currently equal to 0. I want to now go through all those files and see if one of them matches today's date, if the title of one of those files matches today's date. I'm going to do that using a while loop. And so I'm going to say while files has next, essentially if it has some other object inside of that variable, let file equal files next. So just grab the next one. And then if file equals today, which is today's date, then give me some output. So we'll do logger log file plus sign hyphen found a match. And then I want it to increment the check file. This check file plus plus is just JavaScript shorthand for adding 1 to that variable. So essentially we would go from 0 to 1. And just for visibility, I'm going to logger.log the check file. All right. Okay, so we can kind of test this out right now. If we look in our journal folder, there's currently just the template file, but if we go and we run this script, it should run just fine. And because we're calling the drive app for the first time, we have to give it permission to run. And it runs just fine. Okay, so if I go into the journal, my journal folder, and I manually create a document, so this is going to be 2023.12.10, and then I go back in here and I run my script again, it found a match and moves the check file to 1. All right, so that's exactly what I want to happen. So what I'm going to go back in here is I'm going to close this and we will delete this file. Now, the most important thing here is that check file got incremented. That is what is going to tell me if it found a file that matches today's date. So we have that. We can get rid of this right here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do an if statement. So if check file equals 0, then we are going to create a new journal entry. Else, we're going to do browser message box file already exists. We're just going to tell the user that the file already exists. So now we have to create the new journal entry. And the way that we're going to do this is we are going to just make a copy of this template, which is already in my journal folder. So we need to go out and grab that file. So I am going to do let journal entry equal drive app dot get file by ID. And we're going to go open this up, and right here is the file ID all the way up between these two slashes. So we'll grab that and we will use that. We are going to make a copy of it. And one of the arguments that you can give the make copy command is what the title of the new document is going to be. That is going to be today's date. And then we're also going to get the ID of that journal entry. The reason we're going to get the ID of the journal entry is because I also want to get the URL. And so I'm going to go drive app dot get file by ID. Journal entry is what is holding the ID of my newly created file. And then I'm going to use get URL. So now I have made a copy of that template. I've called it today's date, and then I've gotten the URL from it. The next thing that I want to do is I want to create all the values that I'm going to be placing inside of my dashboard. And so the first thing I want to do is When the entry gets placed here under entry, I want it to be a hyperlink. So we need to go build out that hyperlink. So I'm going to do let journal link equal spreadsheet new rich text value. And we are going to do set text as today, because that is going to be the title. Set link URL to the URL, and then build. All right, so now we just need to go and put all the values where they need to be. So we're going to do dashboard get range. And so we know that it is going to need to go on the first available row after here. So we can basically just start with row 19. So we will say 19 plus journal last row. So that will just let us know how many rows we need to go down. And we know that's going to be in column 3. And we're going to set the value, and that's going to be month. Okay, now we're going to do dashboard get range. We're going to do 19 plus journal last row. And this is going to be, I believe, what, column 4. And set rich text value, that's going to be our journal link that we created. And then lastly, we're going to do one more. Get range 19 plus journal last row. And that should be column 6, or column 5 actually. And we're going to set the value. This is just going to be daily, because that is the type of journal entry that we're going to be creating. All right, so let's save this. Okay, so now that we have all that completed, let's go make sure we don't have a file in here. So we are going to test this out. I'm going to go back in my dashboard, and then using LifeOS, I'm going to click on new journal entry. It is going to run the script. And we have the new entry here. We have December for the month. We have the entry, which is a hyperlink. We can click that and go directly into our journal entry, where we can start typing in all of our information there. And then we have the type for daily. And if we were to try to run this again, clicking LifeOS, new journal entry, it should find one already exists and tell us file already exists. Let's build out the final section to our dashboard, which is going to be our task and project tracker. So I'm going to go ahead and put tasks right here, and we want 4 columns. So let's go ahead and give it this dark gray background with a white font. And this is going to be tasks, project, or actually completed, project, and due date. And we will make the tasks section a little bit longer. So what I want to happen essentially is when I type in a task here, let's just say finish report, I want a couple of things to happen. One, I want a checkbox to automatically be generated in the next cell over. And I want to be able to type in my tasks like this: project, arrow, task, arrow, due date. And when I hit enter, I want the checkbox to be put here. I want the script to break this apart, put the project here, due date here, and keep the task here. So we need to go write some app script in order to go do that. I've already started building out the function. We're going to use an onEdit for this one. I already have the variables in there. Notice that we use the E here to capture the event variables. So when I edit a cell, this column and row variables are actually going to get the column in the row where the event is actually happening. And we can test that using the message box. So we'll do column, and then row. So let's save this, and we can run it. Actually running the onOpen, so we need to go to onEdit and run that. We're going to get an error because there is no event happening. But if we go in here and we just type in any bit of information, we should get the message box, and it lets us know that this is column 12, row 10, where that event took place, which looks about right to me. So I only care if one column is edited, and that is going to be this column here. So column L, which I believe, let's double check again, that is going to be column 12. So what I'm going to do is create an if statement that if column equals 12, that's when I want things to happen. So the first thing I want to happen is I want that checkbox to be populated. So we're going to say dashboard, get range. We're just going to use the row variable because that's the row where the event took place. And then we know that the column is going to be 12, and we're going to do an insert checkboxes. We can go test that real quick. We should get a checkbox here. Actually, we need to go 13. Let's try this one more time. There we go. All right. So we have the checkbox in there. Now, as I said previously, I want to be able to type in my task, project, and due date all in the same line and have it be broken apart. And the way that we're going to do that is, first thing, we need to grab the value from that cell where we typed everything in. So I'm going to create a holder for it. It's called task, and we are going to do dashboard. This time we're going to use get active cell, and we're going to get the value from that. So essentially whatever we type in and hit enter, it's going to grab the value from that. Now we need to split it apart. And there is a possibility that not every task we type in is going to have that arrow in there and is going to need to be broken apart. So we need to look for that arrow. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to create an if statement. So if task index of arrow is greater than -1, that's when we want stuff to happen. Let me sort of explain what this is doing here. Task is the variable that is holding all the text. Index of looks for that character. In this case, it's the greater than sign. It looks for that character inside of that value. If it finds it, what it returns is the position of that character. So if it's 7 spaces in, it'll return a 7. If it doesn't find it at all, it's going to return a -1. So essentially, this line of code says, if you find that arrow inside of task, then I want you to go do something else. Don't worry about it. So if it finds the arrow, the first thing I want it to do is I want it to break that string apart. So we're going to create let split task equal task.split, and we want to split on the arrow. And to kind of show you what this looks like, and I can't use logger.log for these, so I have to use browser message box. And so now I'm going to go ahead and we're going to take a look at what split task looks like. So let's save this, and I'm going to type in 1 arrow, 2 arrow, 3, and if I hit enter, it essentially took that one string of text, 1 arrow, 2 arrow, 3, and just broke it out, took the arrows out, and gave me those individual pieces, 1, 2, 3. So those are 3 individual objects stored inside of that split value task. Now we can go and call those in any order that we want now using this method. So we can say let project equal split task 0. So 0 is the first position in that list. I want to get the task out of it too. So in this case, I already created the task variable up here, let task, so I don't need to create it again. I just need to reassign the value, and that is going to be split task 1, and then let due date equal split task 2. So now we have all of those individual values stored in their own proper variables. Now we can go put them wherever we want. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is say dashboard get range. I want it on the row where the event happened, and we can also just say column where the event happened, and I want to set value of task, and I also want to trim white space just in case there's any left over. Then I want to do the same thing, get range row column +2, and we are going to set the value. This should be the project, and we're going to trim white space off of that. And then last, we're going to do get range, row column +3, and we are going to set value for the due date. And once again, trim white space off of that. All right, let's go ahead and test this out. So I'm going to save that. So now I should be able to go in here and say for school, I need to finish my English paper, and it needs to be done on the 15th of this year. So yep, so it does exactly what I hoped it would. It pulls out all of the different pieces. It puts it in the school project, gives it the due date that I assigned it, and leaves the task right where it should be. So now we can actually go and type in a lot of information into one line and have the app script sorted out for us. Also too, the way that this is written, we can just put finish history paper without any type of caret. It knows not to break it apart because the caret wasn't found. Or we can even say school study flashcards, and it will still put the school in the right project area, even if we don't give it a due date. So that is actually really nice and convenient. You can of course type everything in manually, but now you have the option of typing all of the different bits of information for your tasks into a single line and have the app script break it apart for you. Now, in this final section, one of the things that you can do in Notion, which is kind of cool, is you can join databases, particularly for task tracking inside of projects. So you can put all of your tasks into a single database, but basically join it to where if you have tasks for multiple projects or multiple teams, you also have a secondary database where you can go just look at the task for that project, just look at the task for that team, or assign to a specific person. We're going to do something like that here. So I'm going to go ahead and just say, put school here for a few of these. And I'm going to create a new tab, and I'm going to call this one school. We'll call it school tasks. And I'm going to use Google's query API. So I'm going to do query, and then we're going to give it the data. So in this case, we'll just say all of this right here. And then we're going to give it a select statement. We're going to say select everything where column N equals school. And we'll close that out, and we say that we have one header. So now we basically have a copy of all of our school-related tasks just in this one secondary tab. So I can go in here and I can put another one. I can say school, go to club meeting, and that's going to be due on the 10th of this year. And I can say school, register for classes next semester. And let's say I need to do that by the 31st, and it will break it apart and do that. And then I can go just look over here, and they're automatically added here. And I can even make this a little bit better looking. So we'll just say school tasks, and we will give it that same dark gray background with the white font. And we can even get rid of the grid lines if we don't want those. Notice that the checkbox does not come through as a checkbox. It comes through as the value that it represents, which is either true or false. So we can go in here, and as we start completing some of these, we can check those there, and it will just simply show as completed true. But this way you can have a secondary view where you can basically just look at all of the tasks related to a specific project or area of your life. So now we have a Notion style dashboard. Certainly this is not exhaustive, but this is just to give you an example of the way that you can build out some of the functionality that a lot of people use in Notion. You can build that inside of Google Sheets using AppScript, and with some degree you can actually do it with a lot more flexibility because AppScript is so robust. But this should be a great way just to kind of get you started. And I hope this was helpful. If it was, as always, like I said, like and subscribe. I'm going to be doing some more videos here, obviously about Google Sheets, but I'm also going to start showing some of the work that I've been doing in Notion as well. So thank you very much for watching. If you made it to the end, I really appreciate it. And I hope you have a great day. Thank you very much.